Hey guys, Zoo Podcast 75. We're still here, episode 4. We have special guest, an awesome Ranger buddy that is his credentials and experience speak for itself. It's a man who is not only a awesome soldier but an even better friend. So it's a pleasure to have him on with the regular host, Doc J, and myself. Again, we can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
Sweet. All right. So, again, we still don't have any sponsors, which is all right. We're personally funding this operation, which is awesome. But one company that I am proud to sponsor and talk about tonight is Direct Action USA. They are currently making some awesome cuffs for the zoo. It's a veteran-owned and operated company. They make cuffs in the USA. Just awesome custom products that you can get from them. Just check out their website, directactionusa.com. Send in your requests, and I guarantee you won't be disappointed. Be on the lookout for our personal products coming out from them. So with that, like I said, I was on my last deployment with Paul. Awesome guy. Love hanging out with him, both in the military and out of the military. We spent some time together in Montana, and he's been a resource for me personally. So, Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit about your military background, what drew you into the military, what you had going on post-military, and what you're getting into now?
All right. Well, first off, thanks for having me on, man. It's always a good opportunity to get to hang out with you. It's a real pleasure. I spent 9 years just about in the military from 2006 until 2014. I was medically retired. My back, my knees, and all that other stuff got chewed up. So we parted ways. While I was in 3rd Ranger Battalion. I deployed 6 times with them. I deployed 3 times as a sniper. I got 2nd place in the USASOC sniper competition in 2010, which is real difficult, so I'm pretty proud of that. And my partner, Stuart Adcock, helped me get there. And after that, I did a couple more deployments, and I was selected by Sergeant Major Merritt to go be a liaison instructor at Special Forces Sniper Course. I was the first one, myself and Barrett Leopold, to go work up there. So, you know, it's a pretty cool opportunity to get to go work with those guys. It's a great sniper outfit. Taught me a whole bunch about being a sniper, and then, you know, going to work on the other side as an instructor really taught me a lot about just interacting with people and different soldiers and stuff like that. I spent the last 2 years of my military career in Korea and in Fort Benning waiting for my medical retirement. So I got a little glimpse into the regular Army and kind of changed my mind about some things. Right now, I'm living out in Virginia with my good Ranger buddy James Webb. He's got a cattle operation. He raises grass-fed Angus out of the Army and wasn't sure what to do. I was thinking about contracting. I had a job in a shooting school, and none of those options really seemed that great for me. I need to change for my own mental well-being and to take a step back and put down the guns for a little bit. And James afforded me that opportunity. He just said, come on up, you know, I'll take care of you. You help me with the cows and the farming and all that. I'll teach you a trade, you know, and you get your mind set, and then you do decide what you do, or you stay here and do this with me. So far, that's great, man. Just riding horses, raising good, healthy beef. It doesn't have all kinds of stuff in it. Spending lots of time outdoors, driving 200 humongous tractors, you know, cutting down hay and learning to do all of that. And it's good, man. It feels like you're giving back to your community. It's a lot different, but it gives you the same sort of sense of satisfaction I got from being a Ranger. And so far, I'm really enjoying it.
When we obviously did our last deployment together and connected there, and then stayed in touch post that. And when you found me in Montana, I was an unpaid gym trainer, and you came out and we hung out. And I talked to the platoon sergeant from that last deployment, and he was basically saying the same thing: getting away from the guns, the contracting's cool. You feel that sense of brotherhood and like-minded people, but at the same time, you don't feel that sense of purpose. And so, what are some things that you're doing now, other than, are you traveling? Are you doing any club involvement, or?
I do a little bit of travel. but not much, just to see family and stuff. The biggest thing I think I do for my own well-being is having other rangers come visit me at the farm. You know, me and James, we can put up a couple rangers at a time, you know, so if they're in the area and they need to blow off some steam, or, you know, sometimes we're having problems, we'll call up one of our buddies and have them come up and they do the healing, you know. But it's that's, I think, the biggest thing is just reaching out to your small circle of friends and trying to get that right, and trying to get everybody there, you know, at least bumped along on their way onto a good path if they're having troubles. And that helps carry me. You know, every time I talk to you or, you know, Doc J or any of my ranger buddies, just to hear how they're doing, you know, that's what I do to maintain my sanity and kind of stay on an even keel. The other thing I've been doing, I talk a lot to this lady, Robin Hackett, at Botanicare in Colorado. She's a medical marijuana expert. And so, you know, I don't know how many guys, you know, that I refer to her that actually go, but, you know, she helps vets out. And, you know, so I try to put my name out there and figure out what she's doing for vets and what she's doing for seizure patients and stuff like that. Just being involved, helping out your community. It's real little stuff. You know, every time I go and help another farmer, you know, or they help me, or we fix equipment, or whatever it is, you know, that's what I kind of do to stay sane. And it's sort of working, man. Sort of. Yeah. I mean, it's better than nothing, and you know, we're getting there. So,
yeah, staying connected with you personally was one of the big factors in why I'm still here talking. I mean, sticking with the guns, once that's said and done, like, you really fall back to what you have, and at the time I didn't have anything. And there's so many groups that I'm seeing now, especially on Facebook. And I know like we've talked about it, the Ranger community itself is great with not leaving anybody behind. Like, that's in our creed. That's in who we've become, to not leave anyone behind. And I just don't know if there's that service-wide, you know, with the big army or conventional army and conventional services, if there's that pull to, you know, I felt like at points I was the drowning man trying to throw a life vest to somebody else. Whether it's for us, like we have the Ranger breakfasts, we have all these different Ranger groups that are popping up, big names that are taking on, you know, the brunt of the fight and then doing everything they can to reach out to people. Like, from your perspective, do you feel like there's a disconnect with that and other services versus what we're doing?
I think so. And I think even if those efforts are being made by the other services or by other units, I think the onus still falls on us to be the standard bearers for that. That's what we were when we were in the Army. You're an Army Ranger. You are the standard bearer for that branch of service. And what we do is right, because that's our job, to set the example. And I think that a lot of people, they get this listless feeling or this directionless feeling when they get out, and it's because you're not being that guy. You know, that's who you are. You're still a standard bearer. You still need to be out there showing other guys how to do it. So hopefully, you know, there's an 82nd podcast soon or a 101st podcast soon, and they talk to their buddies that got out, and they link up their guys that have already ETS'd or separated from the military with guys that are about to. You know, I mean, I don't know why we can't foster a mentorship program through Ranger organizations, and a lot of Ranger organizations already do that. You know, there's several groups out there that, you know, you put out a call to your buddy, that call is going to swing around the United States or the world if you happen to be outside the United States, and a Ranger may come and knock on your door to kind of pull you back from the brink. So I think that we need to cast more light on the people that are doing that. I think that we need to be more open in our efforts to stay linked in with our friends. You know, and if we have a good idea that works for us, we need to put it on social media so that other people that are trying to do the same thing can get some ideas. You know, it's hard coming up with ideas, you know, but the good intentions are there, man. So we just got to show some people the way.
Yeah. And like, I want all the listeners out there to know that Jarnigan and myself, this operation was not specific to Rangers. We felt the need to create a medium that could feel like a place where you feel at home, people that think like you, joke like you, but at the same time reaching out to others. One thing that I've seen in different awareness groups is, making that call, 22 calls in a month. And you would not believe
Yep.
how meaningful that is. Like, I try and do it whenever I can, but getting a call at a random with no incentive behind the call, hey man, haven't heard from you in a year. Like, what's up with you, man? Just wanted to let you know that I was thinking about you and I care. Like, you don't know if that guy could be in his closet, drunk, fucking with a stack of beer cans, ready to end it, and that phone call just let him know that there's still a fight to be fought. Um, so I know from these two, Doc J and Paul especially, they've definitely reached out to me, and I'm sure many others. So if nothing else, at the end of the day, even if you're not military, just make sure you stay in contact with people that you care about and let them know that, because it does count.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For me, everybody talks about family or camaraderie, and it's an easy idea. It's a little harder putting your money where your mouth is, and I think that if we all do that, just like I know I didn't realize it at the time when you and I met up in Billings, but you weren't in the best spot, and I certainly wasn't. I mean, I was ready to be on the wrong end of my own Glock. And it's seeing another Ranger that's still fit and is still doing it, and he's got that that same look in his eyes. It brings you right back, and I start slipping back into the darkness, and Doc you'll call me up, and it brings me right back, just like any of my Ranger buddies, if it's Nick Irving or any of the guys from the sniper section or an old platoon sergeant. It's a big deal, man. It has so much impact. I don't think that we can understate that, or overstate that, rather.
yeah, hands down. And I agree with what Chan said earlier too. Is I don't want to limit this to only being Rangers. Like we had Jeremy on the other day, who was also in the regular Army with a couple different units on a few different deployments. He's a really good friend of mine, and we're looking at bringing on some Navy people and things like that to fold in. So I don't want people to feel like we're limited this just to our community, but as more of a whole thing here. So if you guys got any ideas for what you want us to talk about, definitely let us know.
Yeah, it's definitely going to continue to be an evolving entity. So we haven't got a lot of feedback right now, which is making it hard. We want to keep the balance of military banter, humor, and definitely pertinent topics. So your feedback is important to make sure this continues to stay the best product for the audience out there.
Yeah, definitely.
This is a great thing that you have to do. Like it, Caleb on, and it was awesome. I haven't seen Caleb since I think 2011 or 12, and he's one of the best dudes I've met, and I haven't seen him in years, man. 3 years now. I haven't hung out with him since I think 10 or 9 or something like that. And it's funny, you forget how much you like these guys and how much they enrich your lives. So it's cool, man, being able to tune in and listen to you guys, shoot the shit and air some issues, and I don't know, man. I like it. I had a blast listening to you guys in the car today.
Nice. Yeah, I told you, Paul, that I try and clean up my language and be more professional. So for all you listeners out there that are drinking, every time I say like or take a drink.
Yeah. I was listening to I was driving down the road the other day with the wife, and she wanted to listen to one, and I was just listening and threw out a couple frickins instead of fuckins. I was like, yeah, I'm starting to clean it up a little bit. All right.
Episode 3 was pretty crazy. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, that was a blast. Witten was a little fucking ridiculous.
But I've definitely had some followers reach out and ask about medical gear and stuff like that. And since we have you on, Paul, I hope you don't mind if I pick your brain a little bit. Like, what?
Not at all.
What drove you to want to, 1, join the military, 2, be a Ranger, and 3, suck souls through some glass?
It's funny how I came to that point. I was working in an office. If anybody who served with me can believe it, I was a 9 to 5, noodle armed, cubicle nerd, man. I just went to my little veal pen and pecked on the keys and collected my paycheck and went home. In the meantime, a couple of my buddies from high school had joined the Marine Corps, so I'd link up with them, every once in a while after basic. It was cool, and then they came back from a couple deployments, and I'm hearing stories about the guys, and I'm looking at all these people I work with, and they all drive minivans. They're all 10 to 15 years older than I am. I don't want anything to do with them, but it's a good job, so I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing. And I just realized, like, the tax dollars I'm paying, that feels like blood money. When a guy that's the same age as me, that's as fit as me, that I grew up with, he's from the same place, he's going to go out there, he's going to fight, he's going to put his ass on the line, and I'm just going to sit in my desk and stack my own chips and pay this blood money so that somebody else can have this on their hands. It didn't sit right with me. My brother joined the Marine Corps. We were supposed to go together. I ended up in the Army instead. And, it's one of those things. It's like I'm looking at these guys and my friends and my peers and my brother, and they're going to go. How am I not going to go? And I don't want to be the guy when I was 60 sitting around a campfire with his grandkids saying, well, I worked in an office, and, my buddies are hard-charging Marines or Rangers or whatever. And I don't know. I think that if your country says go and fight, you don't ask why. You don't say what for. You go and you fight. It's not like we're Nazis, And I think one of the biggest deciding factors is you watch these old Vietnam movies, and they've got draftees doing these terrible things, and some of them weren't. Some of them were enlisted, volunteered. They go over to Vietnam, they do this terrible shit. And I think that a bad soldier. I posted something like this on Facebook. A bad soldier, there's nothing worse than it, but a good soldier, an honorable, that can tip the balance, of so many things, and that's what you're supposed to do. And I think that if you're a good person and you're strong and you're fit and you're young and you can do it, you need to go and do it and make sure that it's done correctly, because there are too many gray areas in war for it to be left up to conscripts or to be left up to people who are hired by the lowest bidder. Or people who have no other options but to join the military. So I think that, if you have compassion for human life, and if you want, to minimize the atrocity of war, you need to go. You need to participate, and you need to do your job as well as you can, do it correctly in a moral way. And that's how it's done. That's how the whole machine gets fixed. So that was what drove me to do that. I became a Ranger because I got to basic training, and I looked around myself, and I thought, who do I want to be my peers? And the only ones that I really did that were fit and on it and had it together were the airborne kids, for the most part, the guys who had airborne contracts. So, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to airborne. So I go to airborne, and I realize, like, maybe, these are good guys, these are good soldiers, they're fit, but I want better. I want to go fight with the best. And my buddy from basic training, he was going to a RIP brief, and he goes, I don't want to go alone. And I'm like, man, I got orders to Italy. I'm not going to be a Ranger. Through that.
Sweet spot.
I couldn't, right? And I was like, I got it made, man. I got my duty position of choice. But I went to the RIP brief because you can't leave your buddy alone. And, I asked the guy who gave the brief, some salty Ranger E7, I was like, are you guys really that much better than the regular Army? Like, are your deployments that sweet? Like, is your equipment that good? And he just looked me in the eyes and he goes, I don't know about all that, but if you want to be the best, you'll be at RIP on Monday morning. And I was at RIP on Monday morning.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's just that straight up like challenge talk that they give you that makes you like feel like less of a man, but you need to just accept it and go be more of a man by doing it. Dude, some of the talks that I got standing, I mean, I knew I was going to be in Ranger time when I signed up, but when we were in airborne, it was totally different. I think like one or two guys ended up going and getting a contract while they're in airborne. And then I think, Paul, your phone's doing something kind of crazy. You hear that, Chance, or is that just me?
I think it's just you. I don't really hear it.
What? Alright, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to concentrate. Maybe I got some weird crap going on in my headset. But yeah, those talks they give you is just like ridiculous, man. Going to airborne like, you sorry bastards going over there to RIP, you're going to get your shit pushed in, and it's going to be terrible, Who would ever volunteer for that? You must be a glutton for punishment. It's like, damn, what am I in for? But you get there, and they're like, all right, dude, like, I think, I don't remember who the cadre was, but he'd come out to formation and be like, look, man, it's gonna be 4 weeks of hell. You can go over there and get your shit pushed in. It's gonna be the worst thing you ever done in your life, but when you're done, you be goddamn Ranger. It's gonna be worth it. So just fucking, keep the target in your sights, man. Keep moving, and you're like, all right, cool. I can do this. I can do this. But then when you're done, it's true. You fucking nothing feels better than that.
Yeah, I remember we had one of our morning briefings before PT, and he was like, what'd you guys sign up for? Did you sign up to do some pussy shit, or did you sign up to shoot terrorists in the face? Everybody just got motivated. And then I remember we were running around Benning, and we went by like the Army band section. And he was like, wave, there's the people that are going to say, hey, Mom and Dad, I signed up to play a flute for the Army. All right, I'm at home. I'm in the right place.
Yeah.
I was listening. I do this a lot. I listen to a lot of YouTube motivational videos throughout the day because there's too much nonsense around me. But one of them was talking about be a champion in everything you do. And I mean, definitely in the military, but specifically in like a tight community like Ranger Battalion, what I loved is we had that mentality. Everybody across the board, like doing 110% in everything you do. You're cleaning the toilet, 110%. You're going out on down, 110%. You're going to work, 110%. And it's so refreshing to be around like you and Paul and other individuals that have that mentality, because it doesn't matter if you're working a 9 to 5, you're going to be the best at whatever you're doing. That's why it's so refreshing to get together with these different groups and get on phone calls and create different projects. I mean, the zoo in itself has been therapeutic for me, just being with people that they get it. You're not a 50-watt bulb. You're not a 100-watt bulb burning at 50. You're, being a ranger in everything you do. Yeah, tangent. I'll drink to that.
No, I agree, man, and I think that people forget. You start feeling lost out in the world, and you look at civilians and you have this expectation that they're going to be like your military guys, and they're not. The civilian world moves at a different pace, and it moves to a different beat, and you may or may not be able to adapt to that. So I don't know. I just think that, like you said, always striving to be the best and surround yourself with people that want to be the best. That always helps me. And I just look around, man. I look at you, or like all the good things I see Rangers doing, or I just look at my buddy James Webb, that I live on the farm with. And it's like, this is it. This is excellence. I'm one of these guys. I can still do this. I still got it. It's like you said. It's real therapeutic. So
I think that might, that's an important thing to touch on too, and maybe why people they get so lost or are so upset when they get out. Because I had the same thing when I got out. Was I expected the workplace to be a workplace that I was used to. Dudes are just performing nonstop. Like, hey, if the job's done, no one comes into work at a 9 to 5 and says, okay, look, today we got to do a bunch of layouts. We got to get all that shit done by 1 o'clock. At 1 o'clock, we're going to go get chow, and then we're going to eat chow, come back, pack our shit, go to the range for 5 hours, come back, and then if everyone gets their shit done, we'll be out of here by whatever time. And it's laid out, and everyone's like, okay, look, dude, if we bust our ass, we're going to keep the timeline, and we're going to be off at the time that was done. And when you show up to a regular job, that's just like, I don't know, whatever you're working. When I was working, you work till your time's up on the clock. So no matter how fast or slow you work, is how it's gonna pan out. So
for me, like one of the big things, like with that, is when you were in Ranger Battalion, whether you joined for whatever reason, for your country, because you wanted to go do work, you had a sense of purpose. You knew that at the end of the day, your efforts combined with those to your left and right made a difference. And my experiences with working jobs post Ranger Battalion has been, I'm basically just 3 hots and a cot serving time, 9 to 5. You're looking in the mirror, like, what did I contribute? Nothing. And so that lost sense of purpose, I mean, I'm sure, like our last guest, Witten, making a difference in his community, but I haven't got that, you know what I mean? And I miss that about Ranger Battalion.
Yeah, that's definitely like a hard thing to to find again and to get with. And what's the cutthroatness too of being in battalion, you know, like get either perform or get the fuck out, you know, like that was very. I was so much about that, dude, just in that whole mentality of like how it is. And then you kind of get to the civilian world, and like once you're hired somewhere, they're like, well, it's really hard to fire somebody. I'm like, no, they're a dirtbag. Like it's obvious they're not performing. Like, well, you got to give them, like, you know, we got to write a file on them and like make sure all of these like cases go up. And you know, there's other circumstances. You know, that like they go into like all these excuses, and it's like, no, dude, if that was battalion, and be like, you look, dude, you got like 2 chances to fix yourself. This is your warning. We're gonna give you corrective action. Corrective action. If you're not better by then, hey man, guess what? Like, start to look like you're on your way out. So, I don't know. That was something for me that I didn't really ever get used to. Was just how, I don't know, that whole thing.
I know
Yeah.
before we got started, we were talking about different things that different groups that are getting started. Like I know Reebok has this Austin Adventures where they're taking people out and doing trips to Yellowstone for 5 days and doing workouts, and it's definitely a venture I would like to see the 3 of us be able to get started. What are your ideas, both of you, with different plots like that would help the veteran community? I mean, there's all these ruck runs, there's different groups, but the thing that helped me when I was struggling was the phone call and people caring. Like, what are some things that you think could be done that aren't getting done?
Well, I think all the breakfast groups are real good. I think all the stuff we've got going on is real good. For myself, I'm kind of focused on the Rangers that are injured, because my mentality is you hit your 50-meter target, then your 100, then your 250, then your 300, and you're qualified expert. You got to get that 50-meter target, and it's the easiest one because it's your circle, it's your friends. You already have rapport with them. You know, we got guys with bad knees, bad backs, a whole plethora of stuff. On me and James, we work real hard to stay active and try different things and to try different activities. Always stay in shape. You know, he's inspired me because I wasn't injured. He got injured long before I did. You know, and watching him come back from having every bone on the right side of his body broken and almost losing his leg, you know, I mean, he can squat, man. I've seen him squat with a bar, man. It's not a whole lot. It's not a deep squat, but they said he wasn't going to walk. They said he wasn't going to have a leg, and he said, fuck that. And he rangered on, man. And that inspired me because I was injured not long after he became injured, and it was a slow one. It just got worse and worse and worse, and one herniated disc turned into 5. You know, and a back problem turned into a neck, knees, ankle, shoulder, everything under the sun problem. So I think that's my focus, trying to get guys out whitewater rafting in Colorado, riding horses, you know, and right now we're doing it onesies and twosies because that's the resources that we have, but the plan is eventually, you know, wounded warriors shouldn't be doing this because they're not good enough. You know, they're taking too much overhead, and they're too big, I think, to affect the kind of change you need on an individual level. So I think what's not being done, maybe you wouldn't see it, is guys hitting that 50-meter target, getting their circle straight, because once you've got your circle straight, those guys are going to go out in their larger circles, you know, and hopefully it just spreads like wildfire once we do that.
Yeah, that was something I touched on with a little while ago with a person that me and Chance both know was Is Wounded Warrior Project run by veterans, or is it a company that someone started to say, like, hey, you know, we feel like helping veterans out, and they started a nonprofit called Wounded Warrior Project, and now they get fucking more money than Jesus, and their overhead's crazy high. And I've read, I don't want to throw any statistics out and look like an idiot, but from what I heard about how much they're actually taking in and how much they're giving back is just like an absurd amount.
Yeah, I think it's less than 50% is getting back into the veteran community, according to everything that I've read. What's difficult for me is I personally know a bunch of Rangers and other soldiers that have been helped out by the Wounded Warrior Project. They take them on hunts and do all this stuff, and it's legit. They actually go and they do these things. But I think that, I don't know, I think a problem in the veteran community is we're like, hey, I did all of this. I served my country. Now I should get something back. And, you know, you are entitled to your benefits, and you're entitled to a certain regard because you're a soldier or an airman or a Marine or what have you. But, you know, it's up to you, man. You joined the Army and somebody didn't load your gun for you, you did, you know. And once you got a certain rank, we're the ones who ran the ranges. We're the ones who ran the motor pools. We're the ones who ran the hospitals. We're the ones who ran the whole post. So all the resources we need to help each other out and to help veterans out, they're all right there in the veterans communities. We have project managers from the Army. We have, you know, healthcare providers from the military that can do this stuff. You know, I think we need to have a more active role, you know, and that's how we're going to avoid stuff like Wounded Warrior taking too much money, or, you know, the VA providing a level of care that's not satisfactory to us, or even something like police relations with veterans, you know, because that is an issue. You know, how do you handle the 250-pound dude that's jacked and covered in tattoos and has a short haircut and is really, really angry? You know, that's a scary thing for anybody, especially a cop that has to do something. You know, but we're collectively, it seems like we more or less just leave it up to the government or these charity organizations or somebody else, and it's not going to get done. Just like it didn't get done in the military, just like it didn't get done in Afghanistan. We got to do it.
Like, what if there was a mentorship program? I mean, when I got out, I felt bad because I was still a fit, able-bodied male that could go do work, and I got out. But there was nobody to call and make sure I was going to VA appointments and making sure I was doing that transition, seeking out resources, connecting with other people. There was nobody to call me and kind of help hold me accountable. And I didn't know these things previously. Like, I just wish that the military, you know, they go through great efforts to recruit you. They go through great efforts to train you. And then when you're going out, TAPS for me was like a 2-week process. You know, we came back from that last deployment, did 2 weeks leave, and then 2 weeks later I'm out of the Army. Like, I just wish there was a mentorship program that was established, and it wasn't just guys that have made it through the fight that are trying to help other people through the fight. Like, there was some kind of system in place to, from the day you get out to a year later, there's somebody to call and keep you accountable to, like, I want to start my own business, but I didn't know that the VA had resources to help you create business plans. There's just so many resources out there, VA home loans, all this stuff that had I not been diligent and gone out and sought it for myself, I wouldn't have known. So I just wish there was a program created.
Yeah. I think that was a big issue with that, and not that it's an issue, but more so the fact, like, I know, because I was in the same boat, Chance, like, when you, I don't know how much time you had when you got out, but I kind of got out, I got out a month early from, so I got out in May, so let's get out in June. We got back, did a bunch of shit, took block leave, and had about 4 weeks to EZS. But in that you're like also on the way out, getting stuck on like every CQ and fucking whatever duty else that they can put you on because you're on the way out, and trying to get out. So I mean, really, I didn't retain a whole lot. I was supposed to go to some sort of like outpost, you know, you're on the way out of the Army debriefing. That was like a mandatory thing that I was like, well, I'm leaving, you know, in 2 days. So like, unless you guys can get it one in 2 days, and like, well, no, like, it's not till next week or whatever. And you have to get out and you leave. But even then, I was so ready just to get the fuck out that if you told me, hey man, I want you to go get some classes to learn how to get out of the Army and be successful, I would have told you to go fuck yourself, probably. You know, that would not have touched base me until, I mean, probably even until recently. I would have been like, yeah, whatever, I don't need that help. Like, I was just a stubborn dude, I guess.
Like, I don't know much about the VFW, and that's a fault on me for not seeking out the information, but what do you guys feel, if you feel there's a disconnect between the GWAT, Iraq, Afghanistan generation, and like the Vietnam and post-era generation with the VFW. I mean, I'm sure that's an awesome resource, but I really personally know nothing about it. Thoughts?
I mean, I honestly haven't tapped too much into the VFW. I did actually apply for a grant through them, and this is a good shout out for anyone not into the VFW. If anyone's struggling with like housing or bills and you're behind on, because I applied for a grant a while back, and actually it came through, and they give out money, I think anywhere up to around $5,000. And all you have to do is send them like your house bill or payments that say, hey, you know, you're behind, and if you're quick about it with everything, they'll actually get you your money within like 20 days or 20 days if you're approved. So anyone that is actually struggling with with bills and things like that, that's one way to go about it. But it's not like a continual thing or anything. That's not like being on welfare. It's like a one time, hey, we're gonna help you out type thing. And then as far as being involved with the VFW, I haven't heard too much about it, but I have seen a lot of people, or not seen, but I've heard some people talk about going down there and like getting drinks and hanging out because it's actually just a fun time to go and hang out with old veterans from different wars and things like that. So I mean, maybe that might be something we're looking into. Maybe I'll plan a field trip here in the next couple of days, next weekend or something. Go down to the VFW, see how that happens.
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about the VFW, and I'm sure they're more than just the dollar beer bars that are.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that a lot of Rangers I talk to, especially guys that have gotten out, they're moving away from the drinking culture that's kind of ingrained in the military, and I'm one of these guys that thinks that soldiering and alcohol don't really mix too well. I'm not saying you should be a teetotaler or anything like that. Obviously, anybody who knows me knows that I do enjoy alcohol. But I think that, when you've got a force that's deployed for 13 to 15 years, constantly, they're fatigued, they're dealing with a level of combat stress and combat-related issues that we've never seen before because of the duration of this fight. And so I think that if you're a veteran organization, you need to tread pretty lightly with the alcohol. And the other reason that I don't know, I just think that the veteran organizations and alcohol, they don't exactly mix anymore. Maybe in Vietnam, maybe those guys, but that was a different army, it was a different war. We're all volunteers. Everybody in this conflict volunteered, and that can't be said for any other army or military force in our nation's history. So I think that maybe the VFW works for those vets, but I don't think that. I don't know. I just can't see a good situation where I'm sitting in a beer bar in Alabama drinking dollar beers with some guy from Motor 1984 Third ID, and that's kind of the impression I get of the VFW hangouts. As far as their charitable works, I honestly don't know. But if they're giving out an Army Emergency Relief Fund equivalent after you're out, then I'm all for that.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that aspect too. The whole, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I do my fair share of drinking, but at the same time, I think like you said, a charitable event, with involved parties and soldiers and other people, that I think that's kind of a catalyst for some people too to kind of haul off. But then at the same time, I guess counter to that is that dudes hanging out, drinking with their old buddies is probably what it's going to fall back to at some point eventually, if you're beaten up. But I think that you could definitely, circumvent that, like you were saying, going out to a ranch or whitewater rafting or like a camping trip of some sort, go a hunting trip. I know that's been thrown around too. Guys like who haven't been out deer hunting before, know how to skin an animal, things like that. Just life shit that you can learn that'll be better for you in the long run.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that it's like you said. I don't think that you can take booze away from a soldier. I think that's absurd to think. I don't think that you should even. My point is that we all shouldn't be teetotalers, but there is a culture of binge drinking in the military, and there is a culture of peer pressure drinking in the military, and we've all experienced it. I mean, if you haven't, I don't think you were in the military. You know, you go out
Yeah,
to a
dude.
bar and your buddy, you don't want to drink? What's wrong with you? You know, and I think that we
Yeah,
need to get,
living in the barracks even, man.
oh, especially there, man.
That's feeling in the barracks and you haven't been peer pressured to drink, even if you're underage, man. You're gonna be drinking in the barracks. If you join the army and you're 18 and you get sent to a unit and you're in the barracks, you're fucking drinking. There's no
Yeah,
way.
I think the difference
and
with that is like the accountability. You know, when you're out of the military and you're struggling and you're drinking because you have anxiety and you don't know how to fucking deal with it, and
Yeah,
like you're getting drugged up with meds and it's not helping. Versus you're young, you just got back from your fucking live fire range and it's a Friday night, the beer pongs or tables are in the fucking AO and you're getting shit faced, you go out on the town, you get in trouble, you run off, yell Semper Fi, and they throw you in the CQ van. Like you have somebody looking out for you, and you're gonna go to PT in the morning. But as a civilian, you don't have that. There's no accountability. There's nobody to check you and make sure you're not drinking for the wrong reasons. I feel like drinking amongst solid friends that have your back is good, but drinking because you're an emotional train wreck, like that's
yeah.
evil.
That's a really good point too. Yeah, because I mean, even when we'd fucking just be doing like a all day fucking benders in the barracks, barbecuing and all that. Uh, we'd still go out and get up and work out in the morning or whatever. But then, like you were saying though, Paul, I think I don't know. Yeah, you can't take the bottle away from a soldier, but you definitely a chance covered too. I think there's the right and wrong ways to do it, which obviously when you're out and not accountable for anything, it's probably if you're doing it, every day, it's for the wrong reason.
yeah, and I think that it's a rite of passage to some extent to drink with your army buddies when you're a private in the barracks and have your party and whatever. But and you're fine, you get tanked, you have a hangover, you run it off. But yeah, the problem is your ranger buddies aren't always there. We had a problem drunk in one of my platoons, and he'd get drunk and try to fight all of us. The problem is he's so damn tough. He would fight all of us. It'd take all night, So it's like
Yeah,
short of putting him in the hospital with a grievous injury, it's not much you can do. You turn that wrecking ball loose, in a bar by himself in freaking Wichita or something. You don't know what's going to happen. I think it's dangerous, and I also think that the culture of drinking in the military has created this idea that if you got a problem, drink whiskey. You need to feel a little better, drink some beer, and it's somehow tied in with this masculinity thing, and I don't think that it should be. I think we should try to move away from that because alcohol has its place. It's a great balm for whatever problems you may be having, but when you start using it every day, which is where I found myself and why I don't drink as much as I used to, it's going to start masking other problems, and they're problems that stem from being a soldier. They're problems that are going to be compounded by alcohol in most cases. So, I think that as leaders in the military and as guys that are now out, that if anybody's listening to us, we need to say, hey, have your beer, but that's not what makes you a ranger. It's not what makes you a soldier. It's not what makes you a man or a hard ass, or, if you're a badass chick in the military, it doesn't make you a badass at that either. So, enjoy at your own, your own
yeah.
speed.
I mean, there's definitely yeah. I mean, really, I think what it comes down to when you're getting out is like um, finding like healthy coping mechanisms, right? So you're not like Chance said earlier, you're not accountable for anything. You're not accountable to be a fucking PT stud anymore. You're not accountable to your job, anything like that. When you get out, you're probably unemployed. So like if you're drinking every day, it's definitely not a good way to handle your issues, and especially being physically fit is probably one of the best things that you can do to handle mental issues as well. But then people usually that I know, almost every person after you get out, and I did this too, was just kind of like lose your fucking physical fitness. Then at some point you gotta like get it back. Yes, that's even harder to do. So then that kind of throws you down that path too. So I don't know. I think there's a lot to be said about trying to find a healthy way to cope with the anxiety, because that was one of my things too. That was how I was dealing with my anxiety. It was like, oh, I'll just have a beer, Then it just got progressively worse and worse and worse. And then now, like you said, Paul, now that's why I don't drink as much as I used to. It's just that at some point I realized that that's what I was doing, was just fucking trying to find that there.
It's hard too. I mean, coming out in the civilian world for me, you're around unmotivated, undriven people that are perfectly content with living normal lives and have no goals. And so you're around this environment of pigs and you're expected not to catch the mud on you. But when you're in the military, like, it's nothing but fit dudes and now fit chicks around you. So you're like, hey, I don't want to be the scum. I don't want to be the weak link of the platoon. So I'm going to be a stud. And everybody just kind of does this Indian run effect where they're making each other better. And for me, my neighbors were fat. They would get drunk on the weekends. It's like, why should I be, loading up this ruck and run around this neighborhood and getting weird looks? And it just kind of was this snowball effect. And I think that goes back to the accountability. Like, if you know people in the military that got out and you got out, like, it's on you to call them, to keep in touch with them. I mean, for me personally, going through issues, anxiety, I'd never experienced it. Like, my wife had talked about it when we were together in the military. I was like, what are you talking about? Like, just suck it up. Like, take a knee, pull security, drink water. But getting out, like, now I actually have experienced anxiety, and I have no clue what to do with it. So I've resorted to alcohol, which makes it worse. And I don't want to wake up and work out. And it's just a revolving cycle.
Yeah.
So definitely without the health. And I had a good mentor. I was going through a tough time, and he said, what did you do in the military when you felt fucked up and you didn't know what to fucking do? I don't know. It's in Ranger Battalion, legs and lungs. So we just ran. He was like, all right, go run 5 miles and come back and we'll have a conversation. So if there's nothing else, like, if you find yourself staring at a bottle, for me personally, go run. It'll clear your freaking mind. But I really think it falls back on keeping each other accountable.
Yeah, there's that weird, you were talking about, what, when you're on base, right, like, and you're some dude, like, you're getting ready to, like, be a shitbag, right, like, you just fucking went and bought, like, a 12-pack of beer or something, and it's, like, Thursday night, and you're like, fuck it, dude, I'm gonna drink tonight, whatever, and, like, you're driving back from the gas station or something, and you're coming down the road, and there's some dude with a fucking ruck on at like 6 p.m. after work running down the road, and you're like, this son of a bitch, dude. Now I feel bad about myself. So, like, you fucking put your beer in your fridge, you get your fucking ruck, or you go down to the gym and crush some weights, start running, and it's almost like that person that you say, like, damn it, like, you kind of admire him a little bit for, like, having that mentality. Like, that dude's putting in the fucking extra effort after hours. But when you're here, like, when you're out, right? Like, if you're, like, I'll go for a run, or I'll put like a pack on and walk, and it's people that will drive by you. It's like, you're fucking weird for doing it. Like, yeah, it's almost like there's an anti, like, being fit mentality in America, where, like, you're the weird dude. Like, why are you listening to weights? Like, why do you listen to rage metal in your garage and smash stuff around? Like, it's a very weird thing.
They have, like, the weirdest trends now. Was it the skinny jeans and the dad bod? Like, just the weirdest shit nowadays.
Yeah, I read something about that.
Yeah, I can't do the dad bod, man. That's just, or the skinny jeans, man. Do some squats, man. Put on some real jeans. Well,
even if you're not wearing fucking skinny jeans, if you're doing enough squats, most of those jeans are gonna fit like skinny jeans anyway, because you can barely fit your fucking legs in those sons of bitches.
Exactly. You shouldn't have skinnier jeans. You should have more legs, man.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that staying in shape, it's absolutely paramount. I've been out of the gym for about, I don't know, 6 weeks, 5 weeks maybe. I re-injured my back real bad. Was walking with a cane for a little bit, and it really takes the wind out of your sails, because I was rocking, man. I'd gained a couple pounds of muscle mass, was looking cut, everything was good, I was getting strong, and then you get that injury is aggravated and all your hard work goes away. So I finally got back in the gym today, and it's like a light switch going on in your life, man. Every time I do it, it just, my mood is better, my outlook's better, I feel better. I don't know. It's the key. Fitness is the key, man. It really, really is the key.
Yeah, it's funny how it's kind of accumulative too, or even like the next day you wake up after the gym, right? Like you go to the gym, feel good that day, the next day you wake up and you feel better than you did the day before. Like, oh, all right, like, yeah, okay, I get it. Like maybe I need to start fucking working out again or doing active shit in my life to, feel better about it. Like that was one of the biggest things for me, like turning my life around. Was just do one thing, dude. Like that was kind of, I was in a place where everything seemed like it was a big deal. It was just like how low I was like in depression and everything like that. And I kind of finally just started doing like one thing at a time. Like, hey, I'm gonna go to the gym today. Like I'm gonna go fucking talk to so and so, or I'll call Chance and like do something else. And then that would just get me like, it's just little things like that, taking steps. I guess it sounds. I hate like having to say it, to out loud, to be like, I was like, that's how low I was, how pathetic it was for me. But like at that point, you're like, everything seems hard for you because you're just so fucking beat down. So that was a huge thing for me. Was just starting to run again. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna go run a mile. I'm gonna run a half a mile, like whatever. Even if you're not gonna go run 5 miles, if you're not physically fit enough. That was a huge thing. I feel like, especially.
I don't think that's a weak point at all. I mean, I remember it was like a revolving circle, especially amongst the three of us. Like you would send me some 5-minute CT Fletcher video of, quit being a little bitch and making excuses and get off your ass to do something. And then I'd call Paul and like, hey, bro, what are you up to? Well, I don't know. I'm getting ready to do a workout. It's like, all right, I need to go do a workout too. It's just like this revolving circle of positive energies, and it's so easy in the civilian. It's like the 20-year veteran is stuck in this community of awesomeness. People that are just like you, wear the same things, think the same. You're in a like-minded environment. So it probably isn't as tough for you when you get out because you've been around awesomeness your entire career. But for the guy who goes in 4 years, for whatever reason, 9 years, 8 years, gets out, like you feel like an animal that just got let out of the jungle, let out of the zoo, and you got put back in the jungle and have no clue what to do. And like you're just stuck. Like I don't know if you guys felt like that, but that's kind of how it was for me.
Yeah. There's one time especially where I felt like that. I just started my job, working at the hospital, and I got pulled into like a higher level meeting with the chief operating officer of our area, who wanted me to like sit in on this meeting with a couple physicians, and there were some other people from different companies there, and what they had done was done surveys and things like that, and sent mystery shoppers into some of these practices where they would go in and be like, hey, I'm trying to get an appointment with so and so doctor, but these people at the front desk would act like they didn't see them, or ignore them for like 5 minutes while they were waiting and things like that. And they asked everyone, what can we do about this? Do we need more training or whatever? And I I was cutthroat fucking ranger, just got out, and I'm like, you need to fire those people. Just straight out, like, get rid of them, dude, because that person that you have at that front desk, I don't care if like Joni broke up with Chachi and she's fucking butthurt about it, because that person is going to go on social media and just ruin you, and it's going to get spread around. I'm never going to John C. Lincoln again or whatever. And that was like a big thing when I got out, was I don't know. I was really like a lot more not forgiving and not intuitive of the environment that I was in, I guess, because you're a lot more aggravated, like you said, Chance, like an animal in a cage, and you're trying to like figure out how that fits in or how you can tone that down to fit in. I think I wrote something on the Z page about that. It's almost like you develop another personality, you become a different person, but you need to like develop that balance between the two of being, you have the acceptable mentality in a workplace, but then also you got to be right in your own mind and your own head when you get off work too, which is kind of where I was kind of depressed with having to not be who I was in the military at work, and then you get off and you're like, well, shit, what do I do now?
Yeah, I've felt the same thing. It's real hard. You can't, and that's the benefit of living with another ranger, is that they can remind you every day that the person you're talking to wasn't in the military. You know, your expectations are unrealistic. Your standard is entirely too high for whatever work environment you're probably going to be in, and it's a real thing. For me, it really didn't come about until I went to the VA, and they're like, "Hey, how you doing? See you in 6 months." I'm like, "Wait a minute, that's not okay. Like, you can't just give me one appointment." And everything takes forever. It just, yeah, it's hard to be with those people, but I think I don't know. You got to cope, man, and you got to talk to your ranger buddies about it. Because if you vent to normal people, then it's not going to be good. You'll get fired, or you'll have to go, talk to your boss. So
Yeah, I think that's we touched on that on a different podcast. Is people asking, what was it like? What'd you do, or whatever? And my typical response is, "Oh, we went around and caught bad guys at night. It was a good time." You just never because you can't say what shit what people actually did or what actually happened. And so I don't know. I
I
feel like
mean,
it's
even the
definitely
way
more.
you handle things, like I remember when I was angry with some of you guys. I'm sure you remember this, Jarnigan. You got pissed at something somebody did, and it's like, all right, I'm not gonna write accounting on you. Let's get your kit on, get your ruck on, grab your pro mask. We're gonna go run until you're tired, and then go do med drills and IVs. You remember that? It's like you
Yeah,
can't do that now. Like you have to peaceably talk to them, be concerning about their feelings, and it's just like I don't know how to operate this way. I just want to lift and listen to loud music and be
yeah,
angry and be awesome. And I don't know. I still struggle with it. I mean, keeping
yeah,
connected with you guys has kind of kept me in check. Like Paul, Chance, fucking put down the bottle, go work out, Roger. So the accountability is definitely helping, but at the end of the day, like I just want the good old days, and it's so hard to move forward and adapt in this new environment. Um,
yeah. Well, I feel like that might be a little bit because I got out as a corporal, yeah. So I never got put into a senior medic position. I was just in charge of the platoon, and I got to run it how I wanted to, basically for the most part, being the platoon senior medic. But uh, I can't imagine being in a higher level leadership position, like a platoon sergeant or higher than that, and getting out and going back to work in a regular office environment after your whole time in the army, you're dealing with oh, this guy's not functioning. What the fuck is wrong with you? Someone's gonna go light his ass up, and that's how you handle it. And then you get to the regular world, where I was at, and Paul, like you said, Paul, in a cubicle environment where it's all friggin' sunshine and rainbows, and you can't talk bad to people, and your counseling is, hey, we've noticed you're kind of lacking in some areas. Just wanted to let you know, is there any way we can help you? And it's very not just hey dude, pull your head out of your ass for right now. You're gonna get lit up right here, fix it. That kind of thing. I can't imagine going and being in that leadership mentality to having to be completely dulled down and have all your tools taken away. You know what I mean?
yeah, it's tough. I went to the regular army and experienced a lot of the same things. Is I actually had to be pulled aside and go talk to a sergeant major because the medical staff was upset with me talking to them, and I was being polite. I wasn't talking like I would to another ranger. I was just, hey, I'm here for this. I'd like it at this time. Thank you, and I'm out. He's too blunt and he's too forward and he's offending people. And I literally just walk in, say, hey, good morning. I'm so and so. I'm here for an injection. I'd like it now, and let's go do our business, because that's their job, and you
Yeah.
just talking to people, normal interactions with somebody that you need something from, is difficult, and it's different than it is in the military, and you don't have the rank on anymore, so you gotta it's a tough adjustment to make.
Navigate it. Yeah. How was that like from your end and from going from that to regular army with like medically like instead of having like the medics in the 8 cage like the 340s that you see regularly to being like
Oh man,
how moving over like how was that?
it was interesting to say the least. So what's funny is that it seemed to me, at least where I was at, I was in Korea. I was on Camp Red Cloud in Korea. The doctors and the PAs, they were good. And I'd say better than most of the doctors and PAs that I dealt with in regiment.
Yeah.
But their medics were not so good, man. I'll give you a little story. When I was a ranger, I was a specialist or a corporal, I think. I was out riding my motorcycle, and my motorcycle tipped over, and I messed up my foot and needed some stitches. I went in, Doc Co stitched me right up, and he's like, all right, you're good to go. No paperwork, no lecture, nothing. He just knew I was hurt, stitched me up. I went and jumped and rucked that day, no problems. So flash forward to Korea, I slice open my hand. It's a big gash, about 2 inches, going to need stitches. Same kind of injury, real simple. I go into the aid station, and these guys don't even know what to do. They just look at me. They're like, yeah, you cut your hand. I'm like, yeah, it's real deep, man. Like, so the tissue's coming out. I mean, it's like long. It's 1.5 inches long. You probably want to stitch that up, And they're like, I don't know. You think we should? I'm like, why are you asking me? I'm the one that came here. No. Yeah, so I was like, you guys just take care. I'll go deal with this myself. So that was an eye opener, and I got to my unit. It was a garrison unit. I was working in their DPMS, or DPTMS, the Department of Plans, and I was also their training room NCO and the headquarters platoon sergeant. So you're an E6 platoon sergeant, you better fire some shit up. That's not how it works in the regular army. You can't just go in and start putting people on the ground to do push-ups. You can't, take them on long runs and all this stuff because they won't respond. They're not the same kind of soldier. So I had to learn how to talk to them. They put me into a shop, basically an S shop, with 3 civilians. They handed me an op order for a concert that's 17 pages long and way more than 5 paragraphs. They're like, you read op orders, you can read this op order. This will be your job. I had to tell them, like, you just can't expect that kind of work out of me because 1, this isn't an op order. 2, I'm an 11 Bravo. Like, I now have a whole platoon of soldiers I can train instead of reading about this concert.
Yeah.
So they didn't. That had to talk to the sergeant major again about how the civilians need to be treated a certain way for their ego's sake, and it's difficult, man. It's real difficult. Unfortunately, when you go talk to these sergeant majors and stuff, they've been around long enough that they are from a different era as well, and they were raised by hard asses, so they get it. They know how to adjust fire. But you don't have that in the civilian world, unless you actually go out and call up your old sergeant major or first sergeant or something, which not many people do.
Yeah, that's true. I mean I mean I don't even know. I only dealt people that were like within the actual platoon, let alone maybe like I mean with the first sergeant of ACO, but other than that, not really like CSM or anything like that. I know you mentioned something about Command Sergeant Major Merritt earlier, who's like a goddamn legend in the Ranger community.
Oh yeah, Sergeant Major Merritt, man, he's the best.
Yeah, dude's awesome.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's difficult. I've got a lot of sympathy for the big army, and I think that, the leadership is challenged because the army and probably the whole military, on whole, their recruiting practices suck. We recruit like we're still drafting people, and then we treat them and train them like draftees. So there's a schism between our all-volunteer force and the way that we recruit and train and staff our ranks. And it's a big deal. You can't tell a Muslim chaplain's assistant from Philly that, he's all fucked up. He's not going to take that. Like, you're going to have to talk to him different than, the guys that went through RIP, that put it all on the line and don't care how bad you beat them. They just want to be there for the sake of being there. These guys in the regular Army, some of them, at least in my experience, they've got different goals. They're smart soldiers, not strong soldiers. It's a challenge, man. It really is, But I went from a Ranger sniper section where I had one guy who was an E5 that I was responsible for, and me and him, like, basically were the same rank, basically had the same amount of experience, so there wasn't a whole lot of leadership to be done. I just had to fill him in on some sniper stuff. And, I walk into a headquarters platoon of a garrison in Korea, and I've got female, half of my formation is Korean, I've got E7 standing in my formation. So my experience with the military to that date is completely opposite of what I experienced after that. And
yeah, I mean, there's some stuff that's going on, like you were saying, with recruiting and how that's being handled. I was looking on like Monster the other day, looking to see if there's any jobs that I'm available for and that sort of thing. And I had saw on there they had like an intelligence officer posted as like a legit job that you would apply for. It's like, call blah 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 recruiter today to like inquire about this position. Like, you're gonna get hired on at some place and wherever you're working. It was very like odd to me to see that, instead of just like, hey, I'm going down to the recruiting office to fucking join the army or whatever.
Yeah, it's really weird how they staff these positions. I learned more about it going through the MEB process. In the regular world, you go to a doctor that you pick, you pay them, they work for you. If you don't like what they have to say, you explain that politely, you get your second opinion, no big deal. Try doing that to a colonel. Try doing it to a ranger colonel, saying, I don't agree with your medical opinion, or I don't think that the care that you want to give me is going to be good for my plan. That doesn't work whatsoever. I've been dressed down by majors that were supposed to be helping me, because they were orthopedists or they were some other medical professional. And the only way to get them in the military is to pay them at the rank that they hold, a major or a colonel or whatever. But they're not leaders. They're not soldiers. They're doctors. They're government employees. So, it's interesting how we're trying to bridge the gap between the conscript army and the volunteer army that we have now. I just don't know if it's effective. I don't know how we staff MI positions or how we staff SATCOM guys, because they can make so much money working in the same unit as a civilian in 4 years, So I think that's a big change that the military needs to look at, is the kind of people we're bringing in and what we're paying them. And I think it would solve a lot of problems like our attrition rates and stuff like that. But I can't believe you saw one ad for an intelligence. Was it an intelligence officer? Is that what you said?
Straight up, dude. Like Intel. I mean, that involves, you got to get your TS and everything like that. But it was a straight up ad on Monster saying, come be an Intel guy. We'll fucking train you up, whatever. It's like, what it entails, going to basic training, going to your unit training, things like that. I mean, it was very, not like detailed, you're leaking classified info, but I mean, an Intel officer posted on there. I thought that was very, I don't know, like what the fuck.
It's interesting, man. I don't know. I think if you really dug into, as a soldier, especially an enlisted soldier, if you dug into how civilians are staffed in the military and how our medical personnel, like our doctors and PAs and stuff, how they are staffed in the military, I think it'd be real eye-opening. I think that probably the American people wouldn't like it a whole lot, given this power. I had a guy tell me, and it's just a guy, I called him Tony, he didn't like it. He was a G12 or G11, which means that somehow in his mind it meant that he was the equivalent of a colonel. And I had to explain to John that I was, or Tony or whatever his name was, I wasn't going to call him sir because he's not an actual colonel. He's just a 20-year E6. And I did what he 20 years and much less. I don't know. It's just, it lets guys in that shouldn't be in there. I think we can do a lot better, you know. And I don't think that we should have guys that are smart, young, and fit, that are motivated, that want to train soldiers and be really good at their jobs. I don't think we should have them working for civilians that are, you know, retired for 10 years. I mean, you're talking about a guy who was a first sergeant in 1980 or 1985, and he's trying to tell you something about the military. That guy needs to go. We don't need him. We don't need him planning concerts on a lawn somewhere in Korea for $100,000 a year. And I think that.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so you know, that guy's in charge of 5 people and he plans a stupid concert, but because his unit, like his title, is such that it justifies his salary and it justifies him all this esteem, which he shouldn't get, you know, from military personnel, just so he can sit in a desk when you've got an E7 working in an E8 position responsible for billions of dollars worth of equipment or personnel or land or whatever it is, and he's making, you know, so little that he's on WIC to feed his kids, you know. Or maybe that wouldn't be an E7, it'd be an E5 or an E6, but that notwithstanding, that is the case. That's how it happens, you know. And I think that I'd like to see a restructuring of salaries, of government salaries, and I think they should be more in favor of the enlisted man than anybody else, you know. And I think the GS civilian guys, there's some that do great work, and we absolutely need them for our organization, but there's a lot of those guys that are camping out in cool bases, you know, in cool spots just so they can live easy, and they don't really contribute anything. And I don't know, there's a lot of house cleaning I'd like to see done.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I've always been disgruntled with that whole like civilian government work mentality. Like the ladies that I dealt with out processing from Bragg when I was leaving SOCM was, I mean, just the most ridiculous thing. You'd show up there at frickin' Tuesday, the out processing building, to get a blue stamp on a piece of paper, and then on Wednesday for your schedule says like, hey, show up Wednesday here at the same desk between 11 and 2 to get your orange stamp so you can continue out processing, you know. And I think I had something happened where I needed to do something, and I like missed a day, didn't make it down there in time, something happened, and I show up on like the day after, and I'm like, hey, can I get my stamp from yesterday? So, you know, I missed it. She goes, oh no, that's only on Wednesday. And I'm like, you've stamped my paper like 3 times now, and I've seen it, and all you do is stamp the goddamn paper and take my name down. Like, can you just put the orange stamp on my piece of paper, please? You know what I mean? Like, it's, dude, and then you know that person is making freaking like $40,000-$50,000 a year, sitting at a desk, stamping papers for people out processing. Like, that is not. I mean, I just that whole process. I mean, there's all kinds of people like that in jobs, and I'm not saying, you know, a dude who's in the military that's, you know, a fucking hard charger and wants to go do that job, but maybe there's people, you know, hey, like that you may pay less or do a better job than that, and the way they treat you too is ridiculous. Some of the civilians, when you're out processing, treat you like you're, you know, less than a person, and that is so aggravating when you're in that position. Like you said, they feel like they deserve so much respect from you, and it's not that you're a disrespectful person, but you're trying to move with a purpose and get your shit done. So if, you know, you're not going to stamp my paper on Wednesday and I need to leave here by Friday, and you're telling me I need to stay till next Wednesday to get an orange stamp, I might have a bit of a problem with that.
Yeah, I've experienced the exact same thing in out processing. When you're standing in front of a lady and she's like, I can't do that, and you're like, you won't do it. She's saying she won't do it. She's perfectly capable of doing it. There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
And that's a symptom of the government employee, I think. Any place. You go to the DMV and they can't look at a certain piece of paper because it's not printed right, or, you know, it's anything. The VA is like that. You know, they'll condescend to you. I had a lady at the VA tell me to go to the emergency room. She's like, your life is in danger. You need to go to the emergency room. I'm like, you think 6 combat tours, being responsible for an entire squad of soldiers, you know, those kids were teenagers. I brought them all back alive. You didn't think anybody bothered to train me in triaging patients? I mean,
Yeah.
you you both would slap me in the mouth if I didn't know how to triage patients, you know. So
Yeah,
it's
man.
you get on the phone with these people and they can't do it, and it's like, well, what can you do? We're the end user, and I think that more soldiers need to think that way while they're in, and go about making changes in productive manners. But guys, when they're out, they need to think that way too. We're the customer, we're the end user. The VA, it's for us. The Army, the out processing people, all of our DoD civilians, they're for us. They exist. Their entire job exists because of us. So when you encounter these people, especially at the VA, and they're like, oh, we can't do that, we can't do this, or this is the only way that it's done, you have to explain to them why that's not okay for you, and then you have to call your advocate. And it's going to take forever, but if you do it, if you get your complaint to the person that is responsible for that, and there's one in every state, then maybe something will change, and I think enough vets do that, we can affect some change. And hopefully the out processing thing isn't such a terrifying prospect for people. When they get out, they know that they'll be taken care of by the VA, or they can go there for some help instead of just getting shuffled into a big stack of papers. And hopefully they get dealt with before they die, which is not that likely with the VA.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's 50% of the people waiting to be seen by the VA have died. Literally. Like, they've got a list. Half the people on it are dead.
Yeah, at some point,
It's one third, excuse me, of the vets, not 50%. So 33% of the vets waiting for the VA are dead.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a crazy number to think of. 33%. That's like, of if you still have 4 grandparents alive.
Yeah.
Or even 3, one of them's gonna die waiting to get seen.
Yeah, Grandpa's dead and Grandma lost her leg to diabetes.
Yeah.
That's what that. I've got a number here. It's 238,000 patients have died on the VA backlog. So it's 238,000 out of 847,000 total that are waiting. So you figure 238,000, our standing army's around 450,000. So over half our standing military would be dead if they relied on the VA for care. Well, maybe that's a stretch, but
yeah,
that number came from the VA. That was Scott Davis at the VA Health Eligibility Center in Atlanta that put that statistic out. So
yeah,
I mean,
that's got to be an eye opener. And there's always factors in that too, though. Like, I mean, who had terminal illnesses that they just had, appointments coming up or whatever. So, I mean, I'm sure that there's ways to semi-justify it, but at the same time, it's probably also just terrible care too. I mean, even the way that some people get treated. I read a Facebook post the other day from a friend of mine, Tony, who said that he was down at the VA in California, and this dude was walking down the hallway just getting passed up by employees. The old man. He didn't know at the time that he was homeless, basically coming in to get his care, and just barely able to hold himself up walking down the hallway, and no one stopped to ask him if he needed help or, hey, can I get you a wheelchair or anything like that. And so he did, then helped him out, and not a single fuck was given about this guy. That was some old dude who fell on hard times, just like we're talking about. Dude probably couldn't get his shit together. He found it in a bottle. Probably lost his family, his kids if he had them. Whatever. Dude, it's not going right. If someone reached out to him, helped him out, maybe it could have been different. And he's walking down the hallways, looking like he's on his last leg and can't get a goddamn wheelchair from an employee. Like, I mean, just simple stuff like that. And I mean, that's kind of stuff that irks me.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Well,
go ahead.
It's hard because if you haven't been through it, you have a hard time relating to it. Like when I try and sit down and talk about what I'm going through with somebody who hasn't been through similar experiences, they look at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
So when I go to the VA back in January, and I'm like, man, I'm really struggling. I need resources. I'm not looking for monetary compensation. I need to be pointed in the direction of help. Help me out. I haven't heard back from him until about a month ago, and I have my first appointment coming up this month. But it was the phone calls from brothers that I've either worked with or served with, different services. That's the stuff that helped me out. And I physically went to the VA and was like, man, I'm fucking struggling. If you guys don't give me help right now, I'm probably not going to be here in a month. So it's hard to think that, some civilian sitting on the other edge of the table is going to be able to relate and give you the resources and give you the empathy, because I don't know a single vet out there that's reaching out for help saying, hey, I'm a victim, fucking feel sorry for me and give me resources. Like, we wouldn't be asking for help if we didn't legitimately need it. But that ability to relate, I feel like that's a disconnect. I met with a father of a Vietnam Marine the other day, and he was talking about how his son went off. Oh, his brother went off to Vietnam. Did 26 months in Vietnam, 6 months as a gunner before he came back home. Came back home, just had a myriad of mental issues. And at no point do I feel like this guy was like, hey, feel sorry for me, I need help. But he was like, yeah, I'm not right in the head. I'm having some thoughts, and I'm feeling some ways that probably aren't normal according to societal standards. And they just kind of overlooked him. And so his brother, the one that I met, was saying that, at 62, he went in to seek help for a stroke he had, and they did their assessment, and they also did a mental assessment, and were like, hey, you need help. It's like, yeah, I've been saying this for X amount of years, and you guys now are seeing the disconnect. And so the guy that I was talking to was like, that's pretty much why I didn't join. I never got drafted, but I wasn't going to enlist because I got letters from him about what he was going through, and when he got back, the type of treatment that he got. So if you don't understand, and it's some civilian that doesn't understand what you went through, how are they going to have that empathy?
Yeah.
No,
I mean, that's definitely a way to look at it. Yeah.
I think it's a huge issue, Chance. I think that relating and contextualizing your military experience to the VA, especially to the healthcare professionals, it's hard. For one, I mean, I go in for grief counseling because I want to be able to tell people about guys like Michael Jankowicz, and Anibal Santiago, and Patton and everybody else. But unless I'm talking to another Ranger, I can barely utter their names without breaking down, man, because it just broke my heart so bad, all those guys dying. And so I go to grief counseling, and this guy, I'm telling them about, a guy I knew from the military. He killed himself with drugs after a really bad divorce. And, I had a chance to reach out to him. I could have been talking to him, and same thing with a bunch of other guys, actually, unfortunately too many other guys that, I could have been in contact with or whatever. And I feel some guilt for that. And this guy's looking me in the eyes and saying, well, you're just one person. What can you do? You can't save all these lives. And I'm like, well, you don't understand the fundamental concept of who I am, and the fundamental aspect of my character or the character of a soldier, because it doesn't matter if you're one man. You fight to the last man. And it doesn't matter. One man can save a life. I have saved a life. Chance, you saved my life. All by yourself, just by sitting and talking to me. So to have the guy who's supposed to be helping me deal with all these issues try to absolve me of guilt that I know is superficial by saying that I couldn't make a difference, it's so counter to what I believe and what I feel and how I identify myself that it almost makes me angry, because I can. I was a sniper. Tell Carlos Hathcock, after he held off a company of NVA by himself, him and his spotter, tell him that one man can't do all that. Because one man can. You can save your friend's life. You may not, but you can. And I think that you sit down with this guy. He spent the last 20 years in school or 10 years in school and doing this medical practice. Probably hasn't been in a gym since junior high. And he's just one of those, he's not an alpha male, he fits in his niche in the world, and he does it real good, and he goes about his business, and he minds his own. And guys like that, have a real hard reaching guys like us and guys that are more educated than us, because obviously he's got his PhD. It's hard to convince them that the way they're thinking about your situation might not be correct, or that their perspective is wrong, because they went to school for it and they should know. They are the experts. But nobody else is going to do that for us. So, it's tough. You can't just walk in and be like, hey, I'm a Ranger. I deployed 6 times. This is my problem. Because they don't know what any of that means, even the people at the VA. And I think that falls back on a hiring problem or a training problem with the VA. But we can fix that. That's easy,
Yeah, I got kind of fortunate with that. At least just in one circumstance with the VA, the guy that does my Botox injections for my migraine headaches he was a Vietnam veteran and was in the shit, and we were talking back and forth because I told him I was a Ranger medic, and we're getting into the gritty details that most people probably fall asleep listening to about where migraine headaches come from, symptoms, what treats it, and we're back and forth talking about it and shooting the shit, having a good time, and that's really the only I don't want to say heartfelt, but person-on-person contact I've had with the VA that was actually, I walked away being like, man, that guy's a good doctor. He's really a dude that gives a shit about every person I ever saw. Either one is just so deep in the one probably so behind schedule or overbooked that they can't take the time to care, but yeah, man, I don't know. There's few and far between about who's there and who's not, and I hate to get on like a soapbox of like look at me, care about me type of thing. But the bedside manner, is such a big thing, and they even teach that in SOCM. When you're treating a dude, don't run up and just fucking put your hands on someone who's hurt, and you're just mashing on them, looking for blood and doing all this stuff, trying to figure out what's going on. You need to actually tell people what's going on. Hey, I'm doing this. There's a comforting aspect to being talked to by somebody, and even Kenny Chance, we were talking about this before in battalion, is when you're sick, when you're a medic and you're sick in battalion, you're fucked, dude, because you're like, I want to go down to the aid station and get seen, and they're like, oh, why don't you just treat yourself? Like, you're a medic, you can figure it out. And you're like, can I be the patient today? Like, can I be the patient? Can you fucking be, can we reverse roles here? Can I just, can you write me a fucking prescription? I don't want to read into this book, or whatever. And it's just like that. It's almost like that sort of with the VA. You just really feel like, you go there for care, or you expect something out of it. I don't know. I'm not sure where I'm going with that, but it's just I kind of feel sort of like we're in the in the way of like, hey, talk to me. I'm a person, but that's how it feels.
No, I don't want to cut you off, but I know we were talking before we actually got started on the podcast. Paul, you were talking about somebody you knew that sought out resources while they were in the military. Now, Jarnigan and I both will tell all the listeners we would never have done this. Like, we would shut our mouths and keep quiet and fucking suck it up. So if you wouldn't mind, Paul, just telling that story, because me hearing that while I was in probably would have been awesome. I didn't feel that way, if you remember what I'm talking about.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Man, that kid, he's not a kid. I just call him that because he was my private to me once upon a time. He so somebody I was close to, and I was his leader for a little bit. He was on my team, great dude, but he's always kind of a little off, and we used to joke about it. We all kind of are a little off, but I got to know him as the years went on. We became very close, like brothers. And he calls me up. This was last winter, I think. He's like, hey, man, I'm having some problems. How you doing? Just reaching out for a Ranger buddy, which I've done myself, and I could kind of tell he was hurting. I'm like, hey, what's going on, man? And he starts spilling the beans, like, hey, man, I got real problems. I just self-referred, and I feel ashamed and all this other stuff. And by self-referred, I mean he found a civilian rehab place for people that have depression and other mental issues that they can't control. He did it all on his own. He went and found this place. picked a date he was going to go, went to his chain of command and said, hey, I want to suck start my gun, or whatever he said. Basically, he wanted to kill himself, didn't think life was worth living, and that's what he was going to do, and that, hopefully they would accommodate him according to the policy at that unit. And I remember talking with him about how his chain of command felt about it and all this other stuff. And these are salty old war dogs, and they got this kid saying, hey, I'm going to see a shrink. And that is so taboo in the special operations world, and especially for Rangers. I never would have done it. There's just no way I would have done it at all. Just like Dog Jay. I mean, that's right. It's crazy.
Yeah, we just talked about that on the podcast video. Chance mentioned something about that. And I said if someone came to me and said I need to go seek help mentally like that, I told Chance that I probably would have said, hey, like, you should go off post, like, and not go down and talk to someone here. Even though there is a mental health person in battalion, and maybe that makes me a shitty medic, but like the mentality that the stigma between that, because I knew someone who they talked about, I don't remember his name or who it was, but somebody had mentioned somebody was seeking mental help like that, and it was like bad. Like no one, they're like, oh, can he perform? Like it was just a very weird taboo thing, like you said, and I wasn't gonna get pulled off the line, But I mean, at the time, I wasn't feeling that way. But if I was, I wouldn't have taken the chance of getting pulled off the line and doing like the one thing in the world that you always wanted to do since you were a little kid and fucking doing your job, man. That's like the only thing that you really gave a shit about.
Yeah, no. When he told me that he had done this and everything that was going on, and he's like, I'm gonna quit drinking, I'm going to this rehab thing, I'm gonna do everything he did everything they told him, man. They told him to draw pictures with crayons and put glitter on it. He did it. Like he did all of it. He committed himself to the process. And you know what? He's better. He's good to go. I talked to him frequently, and we talked a little bit after the dust kind of settled. He's like, yeah, I wish I didn't have to do that, and it makes me feel weak. And I had to tell him with tears in my eyes, man, like, you're my hero, man. Like, you inspire me. You give me strength, because I wouldn't have had the courage to do that. I might have been on the wrong end of my own gun because I was, afraid. And he's still in the unit. He's still kicking ass. He's doing good, man. He's right back on track to where he needs to be, because he was a stud before, and he went through a bunch of shit, and it beat him up, and he needed to fix himself. And man, he just. I don't have permission to use his name or anything like that, but I'd fucking carve it into a mountain if I could. That guy's my hero. I think that they should make him a poster boy, and use his story as an example, because we're too valuable, one, to each other, because I know every time one of us takes his life, it fucking crushes me. And two, we're too valuable to the military. There's too much training invested in us. And three, when we get out, we have the capacity to do such great things, So if you need 6 months or a year or 18 months or whatever it takes, get yourself right, and it's hard, man. I wish I could go back in time and tell myself that, when I first injured my back, like, hey, take a year, it won't fucking matter. But hindsight, I just hope more guys, hear about that and are willing to say, hey, I want to beat the shit out of my wife, or take my life, or get drunk and wreck my car, or say fuck my job, and instead, because I want to do those things, I'm going to go and seek help. I'm going to self-refer. I'm going to talk to my chain of command, and I think
the amount of like strength and self-fortitude that takes to self-refer and do that, I mean, is really like unfucking precedented. You know what I mean? That I just like, just the amount of balls that takes. And just having, like the power to do that, I wouldn't have done it. I probably, even now, like, finally getting on like the tail end and like working my way towards like having a better fucking life for myself, and doing this shit with Chance with the zoo, and just working my way towards being a functional person. Damn, like, just the idea of just doing that, like, right out the gate, even when I first got out, and I, like, because I mean, at some point, I definitely realized, like, hey, I'm fucked up, and like, like that, like you said, that guy just said, "Hey, like I know what's going on. I need to do this," and just dedicated to it. But at some point, I'm pretty sure all of us probably realize it, and then the pride aspect kicks in, and you're not going to do something about it because you don't want to reach out because you're looking at yourself thinking, I'm a fucking goddamn ranger, I'm a warrior, I shouldn't have to need help. This is embarrassing, that kind of thing. And it's that to man up and fucking do that, dude. Like you said, yeah, that kind of made me tear up a little bit. Like, God, dude, what a fucking American hero, dude. I don't know, real
Like
man.
since we were talking about it last, I mean, pride is such a big thing, especially for the military. Like you have this pride. I don't want to be seen as a weak link, but also denial. And I think that's where the alcohol really kicks in. For me, I resorted to the alcohol to let loose, to let the demons out. Like once the alcohol flows, the fucking rank goes and the inhibition goes. Um, and so pride and denial. Um, and with the suicide, it's not so much like in the moment. All I thought was this is this is a way that I'll stop feeling the pain. But you don't think about what that ripple effect has, with the guys in your platoon, the guys that you served with, your family, your friends, your coworkers. You don't think about that, and that's why those phone calls are so important. I remember I hit a low point, and I had a buddy that I contracted with. He was a Marine, not Ranger Battalion, and he called me up and was like, "Bro, fucking, I need you. Like, you may not know it, but you're a source of motivation. Don't fucking do this. Like, you're an awesome individual. You fucking doing this is fucking selfish." And I didn't think about it that way when I was all to myself. And that simple effort of a phone call let me know that I'm about to do something selfish. And goddamn, I can't even stress the importance of reaching out to people. Is you're not just affecting you're affecting everything around you, and it's so hard to see. And that's what I found in life. Like, while you're going through a struggle, if you don't have any sources to connect to, and I've heard the term dysfunctional veteran, like, you don't know what one veteran, they may have went through the same deployment, same experiences. One guy gets back, he has a wife, he has kids, he has mom and dad to call up and talk his issues through, and the other guy might come through a rough family background. He had a troubled upbringing, and he doesn't have those resources. And so his ability to transition is different, even though they went through the same experiences. So having that connection is key. I mean, go on a tangent.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
The connection's key, and I think that you have to value yourself properly. I have days when I feel like I'm no higher than a pile of dog shit in the grass, but I've got a picture, of me next to this badass named Chance Davis in his full kit, muscle bound, pictures next to me, all these badass Ranger heroes, and they counted on me, and I did my job well, and I was a member of that team. I'm still that guy, and I think that that's what you got to do for people, is remind them. And if you're alone and you're thinking that, you have to remember, like, it's not over. Nothing is over. You're still the guy. You're still the guy that was in that badass unit, that went on that badass deployment, that did all those good things, that got the awards, that brought everybody home, or that, consoled the family of his dead brother or whatever. You did those things. They were real. You're still that guy, and that's in you. And there are millions of people who would give anything to take a soldier, even one that's not firing on all 8 cylinders, even one that's got some issues or needs a little bit of rebuilding, because the potential in someone like us, and it's not just Rangers, it's all service men and women, is so great, man. The discipline is there, the work ethic is there, the standard of excellence and the pursuit of it is there. It's all in there, man. It's just an exterior feeling that's changing that. And, you're not different. Your situation is, but you're still the guy, man. You're still the fucking man that's fucking kicking indoors, and like, you're still that guy. It's still in you, and I always tell myself that when I'm feeling down. I try to tell other people that, if they say they're having issues, because to me, that's what helps. I look at guys like you and say, a guy like Chance Davis was happy to have me as his sniper pulling Overwatch, and felt safe. I did that for a guy like you, or a guy like any of the guys in the platoons we deployed with. Those are my heroes. And the fact that I got to stand next to you, and was good enough to be counted among that number, that's what keeps me going, man. I may be shitty and broken now, but I'm not used up, and I'm not worthless. So,
yeah, I'm not, dude. One of the best feelings I ever had, like, in the world. I'll never forget, dude. This one time, we were fucking leaving camp, sitting in the helicopter, fucking clipped in, ramps coming up, birds fucking like popping off a thing, and we're flying away, and you're watching the base lights slowly fade out into the distance, dude. And I'm just sitting in that bird, full kit's on, hands on your weapon, and I'm just like, who fucking does this, dude? Like, I'm flying out in fucking Afghanistan in a helicopter in the middle of the night with a bunch of dudes that just want to do a bunch of bad shit to bad people. Like, this is fucking badass, dude. It's just like, hell yeah. I'll never just to feel like it all hit me like at that moment, And I was like, holy shit, dude. Like, this is my life. This is fucking awesome. So just like what you're saying, you're still that person. You just need to fucking repurpose yourself or refine that something in your life. Like, even if you're broken, like, I'll say broken. It's a bad term, but I mean, like, I went through some shit when I got out with, like, TBI and migraines. I fucking had this heart issue going on that crippled me for a while. Yeah, I mean, dude, you just gotta figure it out. There's shit that's going on. I mean, with the zoo, with me and Chance, working on this and getting this off the ground has really gotten some fire going for me, and getting fit again. I mean, I'm fucking playing soccer with my brother-in-law. Soccer, originally thought for me that was pretty gay. I was like, I'm not gonna play soccer, but fuck, I enjoy it. It's an active thing. There's some competitiveness to it, It helped me get into the mindset of not just fucking sitting around and trying to feel bad for myself about it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think that I don't know if I just went on a little tangent there. I kind of feel like I did, but I think that you definitely hit the nail on the head there with that.
Yeah, it's important to remember, man, and you got to use it. Like, you're the shit, so go out and be the shit at something. If it's your laundry, do that, man. If it's one workout, man, I'm so glad that we've got a gym at the farm. Because if I had to work out in public, I don't know if I'd do it. It's so sad, but I got to do it. It's the only way I can get fit is doing this weird combination of, like, Pilates and yoga and, like, kettlebells. It just looks all messed up. But, it works for me, and I try to be the best at it. It does something, I don't know.
I totally agree with that. Like, I mean, between the CrossFit gyms and it wasn't cutting it, and sticking with you guys has definitely helped out, staying on the course of what we were and what we are and what we're to become. Like, I mean, I'm lucky enough now. I live with a bunch of dudes doing, like, similar stuff, but out in our front lawn, there's a bunch of kettlebells and pull-up bars, and in my truck I have a battle rope and all these sandbags, and having that community of people that get it. Like, I'm running up the street in boots and Ranger panties and getting weird looks, but as soon as I get home, I know that there's a bunch of dudes that get me. So that community, man, it's so fucking key.
On the topic, before I cut you off on that one, the Ranger panties. Who still wears Ranger panties around?
When I'm working, I have to wear cargo pants. So I'll be honest, like, from rangerao.com, I've ordered a shit ton from them. I don't even wear boxers anymore, man. The breathability of Ranger panties and the fucking awesomeness of knowing I have a scroll underneath my pants. Yeah. I hardly wear boxers anymore. I'll walk around in Ranger panties, and yeah, if a female is in your life and not wearing Ranger panties, you're wrong.
I'll still put on the just the Ranger PT shorts that you had in BAT. They're still questionably short in the civilian world. and I'll be rolling up to Chipotle or something. I'm like about to walk out the door. Wife's like, "Hey, are you wearing that out?" Yeah.
Yep.
What's wrong with this?
Or have you seen how many companies are coming out with like fucking Ranger panties now? Like,
Yeah, it's like new thing. It's pop culture.
you need to get like zoo Ranger panties. Join the club.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
I will buy those. Oh, you got if you don't own a
Sorry.
Ranger panties, I forget everything I said. Go buy a pair of Ranger panties first. It'll make you feel better. Then try all that other stuff we've been talking about.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, shit, but that was something I was thinking about the other day because I was wearing those around, and I'm like, this is I'm getting looks, but they don't know. These things are legit.
And nobody that's listening on the podcast, you better not steal my idea or I'm gonna punch you in the face. But like, I wanted to do a photograph because I mean, this is how I feel in so many situations. Whether it's I'm going out to dinner and I'm sitting there, and I don't know. Look, I think I have an issue with hypervigilance. Like I think everybody is out to get fucking chance. So I'm fucking plotting how I'm gonna kick in your spine. But I go out to a restaurant and I just feel like I'm getting all these weird looks. Like, why is he so angry? Why is he in shape and I have noodle arms? Why is he positioned like that? You know, and I think we oftentimes as veterans feel like we are the minority. We are the odd man out. And once you connect with other people, you're like, no, we're fucking awesome. And these are the people of the veggie eating clan, and they wouldn't survive one day in the jungle.
Yeah.
So I may not have my college degree. I may not have the spoon-fed fucking life that everybody else has, but guaranteed, put me in the jungle, put me here, put me there, I'm going to come out on top, and you won't. Like, I am still awesome, and it's so hard to remember that when you're going through tough situations. But whether it's connecting on a podcast or a phone call from a friend, like, you remember that. You remember, like you said, Paul, the awesome photograph that you were in after you came back from this 3-day fucking mission, hopped up on Modafinil. Like, you have done shit in your life that people couldn't even fathom. You got paid to do awesome shit, and for a purpose, and you are so capable of that greatness. And it's hard to remember when you're not focused.
Yeah, it is, man, and it's hard when you look at your, I'm using quotation marks. You look at your peers in the civilian world, and they don't really feel like they're your peers. I think that it's easy when you're surrounded by guys that are fit and smart and driven and motivated and excellent at everything they do. It's easy to take for granted that, yeah, I'm awesome too. And you get out alone in the world, and you may reflect what you see around you, and it's not going to be what you saw in the military, and it's going to look, it's different. It's not that all civilians are so terrible. It just, they don't look anything like military excellence looks, and when you expect that and you don't see it around you, it makes you feel like, well, shit, I didn't make selection. I'm in the wrong unit. I'm in the wrong formation. I shouldn't be here with these people. Maybe I am one of these. And it kind of gets that thought going.
I think the mentality too with that too is like with civilian is like when you're in a battalion or in the army or anything in general, like you're gonna go to war with the people that you're working with, and that's just a fucking fact of life, and you know it, and you might not like the people, but you're gonna work with them, and you're gonna be working well with them, because if you're not, you might die because of it, And then you have the civilian people we work with who are either either might try and steal your shit, like your work idea, your credibility for your work for their own personal gain, to move up in the company or whatever. And a lot of that team aspect goes out the window, and was hard for me to relate to that, because even though I was in a group of people working and that sort of thing, it still a lot of the time just didn't feel like that was there, even though it was your place of work and your work environment. The whole team mentality and that sort of thing was very not there as well. So I think that's kind of fucks with people too.
Yeah, when you look at your civilian team and you realize that they're your team from 8 o'clock in the morning until 4:30 in the evening, and that's that, and they're all your teammates for whatever your work purposes are, and nothing more than that. It's hard. It makes you feel real isolated. I know I've experienced that, not so much in an employment situation, but since I've been out, you look around and like, oh, these people, they don't care. But they do. That's the thing. Civilians do care, and the people in your lives and the people you work with, they do care about you, and they do want to help you. But it'll never be that level of care you got in Ranger Battalion because, like you said, Doc J, you're not going to war with these people. And you can walk away. You can quit your job. You get a new job. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So it's hard adjusting those expectations, and it's hard recalibrating to see that, yeah, you are still surrounded by good people. And they have your best interests at heart, and maybe they have, you're always going to have work politics, but they're not bad. They're just, you can never expect that same level because you're not going to go through the same thing, and they didn't volunteer for the same thing that you did. So it's hard, not, I think a lot of guys, they turn into such obnoxious people, because they're like, the military way is the only way, and they can't adjust, and it's not a good strategy. It'll fail you every time.
Yeah, that's definitely something to touch on too. We are talking a lot about civilian versus military, but there's also the extent of when you get out, the people who can't adjust, which I definitely struggled with it. But when you're really, I don't know, being like getting put into that team mentality, if you're taking a hostile stance towards the people on your team because they didn't serve or what have you, that's gonna just fail you every time. You gotta find the even keel, and I don't know, man, just figure something out to work well. I never had an issue working in a team mentality or anything like that, but just the way that everything got handled with it. And the ways that it did really fucked with me, and I don't know, just not, it wasn't military standard like you said, but at the same time you can't expect it either.
Yeah, that's exactly right, man. And I don't know. I think it's a matter of expectations, and it's a matter of context, and I think a lot of problems in people's lives, a lot of vets, you'd have a better time if you tried harder to give some people some context that they can relate to. It's really hard to do, I know that, but also adjusting your expectations and being realistic about what the people you work with or the people in your lives are going to be like, because they're not going to be like soldiers, because they weren't. So I think. And that's fine. You have to realize that, the grass doesn't have to be mowed, and the stones don't have to all be dress, and everything doesn't have to be exactly perfect like it had to be in the military. It has to be good enough, and good enough is excellent out here where we're at now.
Yeah. Very true.
Hard, man. It's hard to go from a place where you can have a kid that just doesn't know anything that you have to fix, and it doesn't matter how you do it, you just fix him, and if you have to beat on him figuratively, then you beat on him, you beat the lesson in, and he'll get it, or he'll go down the road, and it's nice, it's convenient, but that's not how it works in the regular Army. And I was in for a rude awakening, and I had to adjust, because those soldiers are still excellent. I had great soldiers in Korea. They were Rangers, but why would they be? That wasn't their place, and then they were good at it. Once I figured it out and figured out that it wasn't my job to make the world around me look the way I expected it to be or to match the picture in my mind, and it was my job to be so excellent that my excellence rubbed off on other people and created a positive example for them to follow, that helped me out. That made a huge difference, because I'm not beating my head against the wall. I'm being excellent, which is extremely satisfying. I'm doing my best at whatever it is I'm doing, and my subordinates, they're seeing it, and that's mentorship, and they learn from it. So You know, in
Yeah.
that situation, it worked out. You know, but you got to adjust your tactic, or you will fail.
There's something to be said about doing things to the best that you can and being an excellent person, like you said. Like if you're the stud in the gym and the stud at your job, and you're always doing the right thing all the fucking time, that shit rubs off on people, dude. Like it's contagious almost, because like people see that and they're like, I want to, I don't know what that guy's doing, but I want to be more like that guy. Or like you see, who the fuck, what's his name? Like I see like on Instagram or like Facebook a picture of Dwayne Johnson. And he's just this fucking huge dude. And I'm like, I need to go to the goddamn gym because that's fucking ridiculous. Like that guy is a stallion, and I'm sitting here like thinking about not working out today. Come on. Like that, it just like, and that's kind of an extreme standard or extreme example, I guess. But I mean, just anything in life that people are doing well, doing well and making positive things makes you want to become a part of that, or just get something like that.
No, I think there's a good lesson in that. What both of you guys are saying is if you don't like your situation, change it. And doing great for yourself is great, but helping others become great is awesome.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that I've tried to do. And your you Paul, your words of confidence and when you saw me in Montana helped me. So I've always tried to inspire people through my Instagram, and that kind of pushes me through rough times. Like somebody will say, "Oh, you're being fake. You had a bad day and you posted something positive on the Instagram." It's like, no. If you're going through a battle, fucking smile through it and try and create positive vibes around you. So being great in yourself is awesome. It's kind of selfish, but causing greatness in other people is going to be great for them and great for you. So if you don't like your current situation, change it. If you don't like where you're at in life, get another job, get a better job. If you don't like your health, fucking put down the bonbons and start working out, or go join a soccer club and get fit. Like
Whoa,
you
bro.
have,
Why are you poking us?
I mean, soccer would be cool if you could like punch each other and kick each other, but you're just kicking
Yeah.
a ball. Like I kind of like sports that require two balls. That's just me.
Oh, all right.
Nice.
But I don't know if that made sense or not. I just
No,
No,
it
for
makes
sure.
sense. Yeah, and I think I'd like to add, like, I found myself in a situation. I was in the military, and I had a job I hated. I just absolutely hated it. And one of my RIP cadre, I was up on Fort Bragg. I was a liaison. And I was talking to him. I'm like, I hate this job. I got to get back to regiment. I got to get back to being a ranger. He's like, well, you're going to be in this S shop, and you represent Ranger Battalion, so you better be the best damn S shop guy that's ever been. He's like, you do that, and everything will be fine. And he was right. I applied myself, and I became the best guy in the shop. And at the end of the day, I walked out of there, my head held high, I did a good job. You know, you can't always change where you're at, but you can change your effort. You know, and if you put more in, you will get more out. It's a fact. You know, I mean,
Yeah, not only that, the more effort that you put into shit, the easier it becomes because you become better at doing it. Like,
exactly.
a good example when I was building software for the hospital on this program, like I got put into this position where I was like building this fucking reporting tool that no one built before, and I wasn't certified to do it, but I was like, all right, whatever, fucking, I'll do it. I'll be the guy that takes on the project, and I just beat on it for like a couple months straight, 40, 50 hours a week. We did it. It was awesome. And then, I had the people that were from the software company, contacting us like, hey, how'd you guys do that? Like, we didn't know, like, that's how that works? That's crazy. And so, like, when you really just apply yourself like that, not only do you become you better yourself, you better your craft, who you are. It's almost in a sense like, you're going to rip or whatever. You find out what you're made of. You get better. You're just gonna be fucking stud at what you're doing, the harder you work at it. So
Yeah, it's true. And the competition is not that stiff. I realized
Oh yeah, in
and where
the
I've
civilian
been.
world.
Yeah, in the military world too, it's a little stiffer in the military, but for the most part, people aren't trying, man. They're trying to get through, they're trying to get by, they're trying to accomplish what they have in front of them and go on their way. So if you're the guy that wins at everything, or is always the employee of the month, or is always the best, it makes a difference, and those little victories will start to add up, and you'll soon look around and realize that not only was the competition not that difficult, you might find you're the only one competing, and that means you're in charge. So I think that's my strategy for the most part, and is to just be the best. And if it's not a competition, it's a competition against myself to be the best at that, whatever it may be. And I think that mentality can carry you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean the whole like never be stagnant type of thing where don't even if you're in first place, act like you're in last place. You got to perform like you're in last place. You got to be always trying to fucking get better because the second you get complacent, it's get out of control. I think Chance, I think you're muted. I saw you talking.
I'm all tapped out.
Yeah. Well, at that note, I will say this is about 2 hours there, boys.
Hey, Paul, are you willing to come on for some more podcasts? I mean, I know this was a long one, and I'm sure we have a plethora of other topics to run through. I'd definitely love to have you back as a guest again.
Anytime, man. Anytime you want. I'd be more than happy to. This has been a blast. I love listening to you guys. I like doing this. It's a good thing, man.
It's like I definitely wanted to hit on the medical marijuana. Definitely get her on. Go back to some of the VA issues. One thing that we didn't hit on tonight that I'd love to hit on in a future podcast is we talked about the females in Ranger School, but attrition rates versus the economic, if there's any benefit in it, on a financial standpoint and different job skills. So I'll save that for a future podcast. But fairness and equity, equal rights versus being financially feasible. So
yeah,
Yeah,
I definitely want to talk about. Yeah, I definitely want to talk about what the women in Ranger School. I have a very, very strong opinion about that. I think it's a little different than some people might expect, but it's a big issue. I think it affects a lot of people. It's insulting in a lot of ways that it's going down the way that it is, both to men in the military and to female soldiers. So I definitely would like to do podcasts about that if you guys are willing to. We got a lot to talk about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tomorrow I'm going to a meeting at 2 with this guy they do like a trade schools type of thing. I don't know, not necessarily a trade school, but like certifications for IT and shit like that. I don't know if anyone's interested, but I'll definitely touch on that next time we do a podcast. Because apparently there's some new thing passed with the GI Bill that you can use it to get these trade skills or IT skill certs that pay really well if you actually get the certs, and they're usually only like 6 to 8 weeks long. You go and get them, and instead of going to college for fucking 4 years, if you're good at IT stuff, you can get certed and make a good living. So I'll let you guys know how that goes too.
Awesome.
On that note, have a good night, everyone. Paul, thanks for coming on. Chance, always a pleasure. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Have a good
Cool.
one.
Thanks for having me, guys. My brother joined the Marine Corps. We were supposed to go together. I ended up in the Army instead. And, it's one of those things. It's like I'm looking at these guys and my friends and my peers and my brother, and they're going to go. How am I not going to go? And I don't want to be the guy when I was 60 sitting around a campfire with his grandkids saying, well, I worked in an office, and, my buddies are hard-charging Marines or Rangers or whatever. And I don't know. I think that if your country says go and fight, you don't ask why. You don't say what for. You go and you fight. It's not like we're Nazis, and I think one of the biggest deciding factors is you watch these old Vietnam movies, and they've got draftees doing these terrible things, and some of them weren't. Some of them were enlisted, volunteered. They go over to Vietnam, they do this terrible shit. And I think that a bad soldier. I posted something like this on Facebook. A bad soldier, there's nothing worse than it, but a good soldier, an honorable, that can tip the balance, of so many things, and that's what you're supposed to do. And I think that if you're a good person and you're strong and you're fit and you're young and you can do it, you need to go and do it and make sure that it's done correctly, because there are too many gray areas in war for it to be left up to conscripts or to be left up to people who are hired by the lowest bidder, or people who have no other options but to join the military. So I think that if you have compassion for human life, and if you want to minimize the atrocity of war, you need to go. You need to participate, and you need to do your job as well as you can, do it correctly in a moral way, and that's how it's done. That's how the whole machine gets fixed. So that was what drove me to do that. I became a sniper. I became a ranger because I got to basic training and I looked around myself and I thought, who do I want to be my peers? And the only ones that I really did that were fit and on it and had it together were the airborne kids, for the most part, the guys who had airborne contracts. So, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to airborne. So I go to airborne and I realize, like, maybe, these are good guys, these are good soldiers, they're fit, but I want better. I want to go fight with the best. And my buddy from basic training, he was going to a RIP brief, and he goes, I don't want to go alone. And I'm like, man, I got orders to Italy. I'm not going to be a ranger. Through that.
Sweet spot.
I couldn't, right? And I was like, I got it made, man. I got my duty position of choice. But I went to the RIP brief because you can't leave your buddy alone. And, I asked the guy who gave the brief, some salty Ranger E7, I was like, are you guys really that much better than the regular Army? Like, are your deployments that sweet? Like, is your equipment that good? And he just looked me in the eyes and he goes, I don't know about all that, but if you want to be the best, you'll be at RIP on Monday morning. And I was at RIP on Monday morning.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, it's just that straight up like challenge talk that they give you that makes you like feel like less of a man, but you need to just accept it and go be more of a man by doing it. Dude, some of the talks that I got standing, I mean, I knew I was going to be in Ranger time when I signed up, but when we were in airborne, it was totally different. I think like one or two guys ended up going getting a contract while they're in airborne. And then I think, Paul, your phone's doing something kind of crazy. You hear that, Chance, or is that just me?
I think it's just you. I don't really hear it.
What? Alright, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry to concentrate. Maybe I got some weird crap going on in my headset. But yeah, those talks they give you is just ridiculous, man. Going to airborne like, you sorry bastards going over there to RIP, you're going to get your shit pushed in, and it's going to be terrible, Who would ever volunteer for that? You must be a glutton for punishment. It's like, damn, what am I in for? But you get there and they're like, all right, dude.
Versus what we're doing?
I think so. And I think even if those efforts are being made by the other services or by other units, I think the onus still falls on us to be the standard bearers for that. That's what we were when we were in the Army. You're an Army Ranger. You are the standard bearer for that branch of service. And what we do is right, because that's our job, to set the example. And I think that a lot of people, they get this listless feeling or this directionless feeling when they get out, and it's because you're not being that guy. That's who you are. You're still the standard bearer. You still need to be out there showing other guys how to do it. So hopefully, there's an 82nd podcast soon or a 101st podcast soon, and they talk to their buddies that got out, and they link up their guys that have already ETS'd or separated from the military with guys that are about to. I mean, I don't know why we can't foster a mentorship program through Ranger organizations, and a lot of Ranger organizations already do that. There's several groups out there that you put out a call to your buddy, that call is going to swing around the United States or the world if you happen to be outside the United States, and a Ranger may come and knock on your door to kind of pull you back from the brink. So I think that we need to cast more light on the people that are doing that. I think that we need to be more open in our efforts to stay linked in with our friends. And if we have a good idea that works for us, we need to put it on social media so that other people that are trying to do the same thing can get some ideas. It's hard coming up with ideas, but the good intentions are there, man. So we just got to show some people the way.
Yeah. And like I want all the listeners out there to know that Jarnigan and myself, this operation was not specific to Rangers. We felt the need to create a medium that could feel like a place where you feel at home, people that think like you, joke like you, but at the same time, reaching out to others. One thing that I've seen in different awareness groups is, making that call, 22 calls in a month. And you would not believe how meaningful that is. Like, I try and do it whenever I can, but getting a call at a random with no incentive behind the call, hey man, haven't heard from you in a year. Like, what's up with you, man? Just wanted to let you know that I was thinking about you and I care. Like, you don't know if that guy could be in his closet, drunk, fucking with a stack of beer cans ready to end it, and that phone call just let him know that there's still a fight to be fought. So I know from these two, Doc J and Paul especially, they've definitely reached out to me, and I'm sure many others. So if nothing else, at the end of the day, even if you're not military, just make sure you stay in contact with people that you care about and let them know that, because it does count.
Yeah. For me, everybody talks about family or camaraderie, and it's an easy idea. It's a little harder putting your money where your mouth is, and I think that if we all do that, just like I know I didn't realize it at the time when you and I met up in Billings, but you weren't in the best spot, and I certainly wasn't. I mean, I was ready to be on the wrong end of my own Glock. And seeing another Ranger that's still fit and is still doing it, and he's got that that same look in his eyes, it brings you right back, and I start slipping back into the darkness, and Doc you'll call me up, and it brings me right back, just like any of my Ranger buddies, if it's Nick Irving or any of the guys from the sniper section or an old platoon sergeant. It's a big deal, man. It has so much impact. I don't think that we can understate that, or overstate that, rather.
Hey guys, Zoo Podcast 75. We're still here, episode 4. We have special guest, an awesome Ranger buddy that is his credentials and experience speak for itself. It's a man who is not only a awesome soldier, but an even better friend. So it's a pleasure to have him on with the regular host, Doc J, and myself. Again, can you hear me?
Oh yeah.
Sweet. All right. So again, we still don't have any sponsors, which is all right. We're personally funding this operation, which is awesome. But one company that I am proud to sponsor and talk about tonight is Direct Action USA. They are currently making some awesome cuffs for the zoo. It's a veteran-owned and operated company. They make cuffs in the USA. Just awesome custom products that you can get from them. Just check out their website, directactionusa.com. Send in your request, and I guarantee you won't be disappointed. Be on the lookout for our personal products coming out from them. So with that, like I said, I was on my last deployment with Paul. Awesome guy. Love hanging out with him, both in the military and out of the military. We spent some time together in Montana, and he's been a resource for me personally. So, Paul, why don't you tell us a little bit about your military background, what drew you into the military, what you had going on post-military, and what you're getting into now.
All right. Well, first off, thanks for having me on, man. It's always a good opportunity to get to hang out. It's a real pleasure. I spent 9 years just about in the military from 2006 until 2014. I was medically retired. My back, my knees, and all that other stuff got chewed up. So we parted ways. While I was in 3rd Ranger Battalion. I deployed 6 times with them. I deployed 3 times as a sniper. I got 2nd place in the USASOC sniper competition in 2010, which is real difficult, so I'm pretty proud of that. And my partner, Stuart Adcock, helped me get there. And after that, I did a couple more deployments, and I was selected by Sergeant Major Merritt to go be a liaison instructor at Special Forces Sniper Course. I was the first one, myself and Barrett Leopold, to go work up there. So, it's a pretty cool opportunity to get to go work with those guys. It's a great sniper outfit. Taught me a whole bunch about being a sniper, and then going to work on the other side as an instructor really taught me a lot about just interacting with people and different soldiers and stuff like that. I spent the last 2 years of my military career in Korea and in Fort Benning waiting for my medical retirement. So I got a little glimpse into the regular Army and kind of changed my mind about some things. Right now, I'm living out in Virginia with my good Ranger buddy James Webb. He's got a cattle operation. He raises grass-fed Angus out of the Army and wasn't sure what to do. I was thinking about contracting. I had a job in a shooting school, and none of those options really seemed that great for me. I need to change for my own mental well-being and to take a step back and put down the guns for a little bit. And James afforded me that opportunity. He just said, come on up, I'll take care of you. You help me with the cows and the farming and all that. I'll teach you a trade, and you get your mind set, and then you decide what you do, or you stay here and do this with me. So far, that's great, man. Just riding horses, raising good, healthy beef. It doesn't have all kinds of stuff in it. Spending lots of time.
Yeah, hands down. And I agree with what Chan said earlier too. Is I don't want to limit this to only being Rangers. Like we had Jeremy on the other day, who was also in the regular Army with a couple different units on a few different deployments. He's a really good friend of mine, and we're looking at bringing on some Navy people and things like that to fold in. So I don't want people to feel like we're limited this just to our community, but as more of a whole thing here. So if you guys got any ideas for what you want us to talk about, definitely let us know.
Yeah, it's definitely going to continue to be an evolving entity. So we haven't got a lot of feedback right now, which is making it hard. We want to keep the balance of military banter, humor, and definitely pertinent topics. So your feedback is important to make sure this continues to stay the best product for the audience out there.
Yeah, definitely.
This is a great thing we've got to do. Caleb on, and it was awesome. I haven't seen Caleb since I think 2011 or 12, and he's one of the best students I've met, and I haven't seen him in years, man. 3 years now. I've kind of hung out with him since, I think 10 or 9 or something like that. And it's funny, you forget how much you like these guys and how much they enrich your lives. So it's cool, man, being able to tune in and listen to you guys, shoot the shit and, air some issues. And I don't know, man. I like it. I had a blast listening to you guys in the car today.
Nice. Yeah, I told you, Paul, that I try and clean up my language and be more professional. So for all you listeners out there that are drinking, every time I say like or take a drink.
Yeah. We were listening to I was driving down the road the other day with the wife, and she wanted to listen to one, and I was just listening and threw out a couple frickins instead of fuckins. I was like, yeah, I'm starting to clean it up a little bit. All right.
Episode 3 was pretty crazy. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, that was a blast. Whitten was a little fucking ridiculous.
But I've definitely had some followers reach out and ask about medical gear and stuff like that. And since we have you on, Paul, I hope you don't mind if I pick your brain a little bit. Like, not at all. What drove you to want to, 1, join the military, 2, be a ranger, and 3, suck souls through some glass?
It's funny how I came to that point. I was working in an office. If anybody who served with me can believe it, I was a 9-to-5, noodle-armed, cubicle nerd, man. I just went to my little veal pen and pecked on the keys and collected my paycheck and went home. In the meantime, a couple of my buddies from high school had joined the Marine Corps, so I'd link up with them. Every once in a while after basic, it was cool, and then they came back from a couple deployments. And, I'm hearing stories about the guys, and I'm looking at all these people I work with, and they all drive minivans. They're all 10 to 15 years older than I am. I don't want anything to do with them, but it's a good job, so I'm thinking I'm doing the right thing. And I just realized, the tax dollars I'm paying, that feels like blood money. When a guy that's the same age as me, that's as fit as me, that I grew up with, he's from the same place, he's going to go out there, he's going to fight, he's going to put his ass on the line, and I'm just going to sit in my desk and stack my own chips and pay this blood money so that somebody else can have this on their hands. It didn't sit right with me. Doors, driving 200 humongous tractors, cutting down hay and learning to do all of that. And it's good, man. It feels like you're giving back to your community. It's a lot different, but it gives you the same sort of sense of satisfaction I got from being a ranger. And so far, I'm really enjoying it.
When we obviously did our last deployment together and connected there, and then stayed in touch post that. And when you found me in Montana, I was an unpaid gym trainer, and you came out and we hung out. And I talked to the platoon sergeant from that last deployment, and he was basically saying the same thing: getting away from the guns, the contracting's cool. You feel that sense of brotherhood and like-minded people, but at the same time, you don't feel that sense of purpose. And so, what are some things that you're doing now, other than are you traveling? Are you doing any club involvement or?
I do a little bit of travel, but not much, just to see family and stuff. The biggest thing I think I do for my own well-being is having other rangers come visit me at the farm. Me and James, we can put up a couple rangers at a time, so if they're in the area and they need to blow off some steam, or sometimes we're having problems, we'll call up one of our buddies and have them come up and they do the healing, but it's that's, I think, the biggest thing is just reaching out to your small circle of friends and trying to get that right, and trying to get everybody there, at least bumped along on their way onto a good path if they're having troubles, and that helps carry me. Every time I talk to you or Doc J or any of my ranger buddies, just to hear how they're doing, that's what I do to maintain my sanity and kind of stay on an even keel. The other thing I've been doing, I talk a lot to this lady, Robin Hackett, at Botanicare in Colorado. She's a medical marijuana expert. And so, I don't know how many guys, that I refer to her that actually go, but, she helps vets out. And, so I try to put my name out there and figure out what she's doing for vets and what she's doing for seizure patients and stuff like that. Just being involved, helping out your community. It's real little stuff. Every time I go and help another farmer, or they help me, or we fix equipment, or whatever it is, that's what I kind of do to stay sane. And it's sort of working, man. Sort of. Yeah. I mean, it's better than nothing, and we're getting there. So.
Yeah, staying connected with you personally was one of the big factors in why I'm still here talking. I mean, sticking with the guns, once that's said and done, like, you really fall back to what you have, and at the time I didn't have anything. And there's so many groups that I'm seeing now, especially on Facebook. And I know like we've talked about it, the Ranger community itself is great with not leaving anybody behind. Like, that's in our creed. That's in who we've become, to not leave anyone behind. And I just don't know if there's that service-wide, with the big army or conventional army and conventional services, if there's that pull to, I felt like at points I was the drowning man trying to throw a life vest to somebody else. Whether it's for us, like we have the Ranger breakfasts, we have all these different Ranger groups that are popping up, big names that are taking on, the brunt of the fight and then doing everything they can to reach out to people. Like, from your perspective, do you feel like there's a disconnect with that in other services?